So the last time I made a video like this, you guys went absolutely insane with the amount of support. I believe we are around 865 likes at the time of this recording. So I have a challenge for you guys. If we can hit 1,000 likes on this video, I will do an hour-long episode, or hopefully an hour-long episode, based on Bioshock's cut and removed content. So if we can hit that, that would be incredible. So the ball's in your court, and I wish you all good luck. Very quickly before we jump into today's video, however, I just wanted to say one quick thing. I'm going to be live streaming on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and what I'm going to be doing is giving away 3 NECA Bioshock figures, completely brand new in mint condition, and I'm going to give it away to the top donor. The only reason why I'm doing this is to raise money for my mom in case she needs to take time off work. That way she doesn't have to worry about money, and if a surgery pops up, I get to take care of her. So again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'll be giving away a Little Sister NECA figure, a Lady Smith Splicer, as well as a Boy of Silence. So I hope to see you on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. With that being said, and with my rambling out of the way, let's jump in to the next episode of Bioshock's cut and removed content. I hope you enjoy. Obviously, if you've played the original Bioshock, you know the opening with Jack on the plane reciting his opening monologue. Well, obviously, he's on a plane. We don't know too much about it, but we actually do have information about it. So first and foremost, the captain was named Cal Franklin, and also the only reason he was cut out is obviously because he wouldn't have been a main character at all. There's a lot of unused audio lines that just didn't make the game, which is quite unfortunate, but again, I do understand why. And also, on top of that, there was an actual official name for the plane as well, that being Apollo Air Flight DF-0301. So, yeah. The plane that we don't even see, besides obviously after it crashes, had a name, and obviously it was flown by Captain Cal Franklin, who unfortunately we don't get to see in the game. Pretty interesting if you ask me. Now, this next enemy, I want you to close your eyes and try to imagine it as best as possible. They were called aggressors. And these were individuals who, over time, would purposely mutate themselves in order to obviously become better equipped with weapons and just overall better with weapons and become stronger foes. Obviously, as the development cycle continued, these enemies became creepier and creepier and creepier the more that they actually became human. It was almost like a reverse type of splicing effect. Unfortunately, obviously with everything going on in Rapture, that wouldn't have necessarily made sense, although there was the removed concept of the Rapture survivors. So I guess in theory it could have worked, but they ultimately in the end removed them from the game. And if you're interested in actually seeing them, I believe they're included within the Museum of Orphan Concepts. So if you want to go check those out, the DLC in Bioshock 1 is your way to do so. Very early on within development of the original Bioshock, Irrational decided that they wanted the splicers to be almost more human-like. Not the splicers that we see in the finished product, but the early stages of splicing. So obviously they would have looked a lot more human, almost like Jack in a way. So there would have been, I believe, 5 in total, one being the breadwinner, and then 4 others, which I believe are nicknamed Bellboy, Greaser, Waitress, and Schoolgirl, as you can see by the archetypes from the photo on screen now. I would honestly appreciate more splicers in the game. Obviously, the budget limited how many splicers and how many enemies we could have actually fought and seen within Bioshock 1, but if they had a bigger budget, it would have been awesome to fight all of these different types of splicers, all these different types of big daddies that were ultimately cut, and just all of these different enemies that were cut. So let me know, do you think these splicers would have made an interesting addition to the game, or are you glad that they didn't make the final cut? Let me know down in the comment section below, would you kindly? In addition to a lot of the splicers and characters that ended up getting tweaked around within the development cycle, the Gatherer's Garden, or in this case, the Gatherer Machine, would have been very, very heavily altered. As you can see by the picture on screen, it looks more like a Vita chamber, really, and it's got a very unique design. Obviously, it's more feminine. You can tell that it's got the bow on it. It's got the 2 little sisters on the outsides as well, but this is something that I feel would have been a little slightly out of place for Rapture. I feel that the Gatherer's Garden overall that we received within Bioshock 1 and 2 just looks overall better. Don't get me wrong, this looks incredibly well done, and big props to Mauricio Tejarina, who I believe is the designer behind this. It's definitely unique looking, but I just believe that the overall Gatherer's Garden just fit more to the style of Rapture in and of itself. The final thing I'd like to cover within Bioshock in this particular video is another plasmid that was cut late in development within Bioshock. And no, it's not teleportation. I've covered that particular plasmid in the past, so if you want to check out that video, I'll leave a link to the video down in the description, or you can wait till the video is over and I'll put it on the end screen for you. In fact, this plasmid was called Parasitic Healing. The synopsis of this is essentially that Jack would have fired some sort of projectile. This projectile would have hit an enemy, whether it was a splicer, Big Daddy, etc., and obviously it would damage them. But here's the bonus. While damaging them, it would also heal Jack in the process. And obviously with most other plasmids, this one in particular would have had 3 levels of advancement too. In addition, certain Spider Splicer variants would have been able to use this as well, instead of just having the Houdini splicers using things like Incinerate. So, not only would that have impacted your overall gameplay, but it would have impacted the overall gameplay of splicers that you would have come across that would have used Parasitic Healing. So, this one is something that I definitely wish would have been in the final finished product. However, Irrational knew best, and I'm sure something went wrong when testing, so ultimately, that's why we didn't see it in the game. It's honestly quite unfortunate. Now let's take a look at the criminally underrated Bioshock 2. For this one though, we're going to have to backtrack a little bit to Bioshock 1. Remember when Jack could see quote-unquote ghosts, and what he was actually seeing was other people's memories due to the atom that he ingested? Well, ghosts, or in this case, quote-unquote ghosts, were supposed to be in Bioshock 2 as well. And in fact, it was actually shown within the launch trailer that there would have been ghosts dancing. Unfortunately, these were cut from the game, and we didn't get to see them through the lens of Delta, technically, which is kind of a shame. Obviously, Delta is doing the same exact thing as Jack. He's going around, he's using Adam, he's ingesting Adam by obviously injecting it into his arm or into the port in his arm, getting all of these plasmids, getting all of these tonics, and he doesn't see the ghosts. The ghosts are nowhere to be found. So, what happened between Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2? Is the Adam that is reused more pure? Does it just not cause side effects besides becoming addicted? This leaves more questions than it actually gives answers, which, again, is quite unfortunate. But regardless, it's still pretty damn interesting. This next topic that I'd like to cover is something that genuinely hurts me to cover, because the idea of it and the ideas that I get from it, just actually reading what they wanted to do, there's so many things that they could have done, and it's so damn frustrating that they had to cut it due to time constraints. So I want you to imagine this. Imagine all of the times that either Subject Delta or Subject Sigma in Minerva's Den had to go walk on the outside of Rapture in the ocean. Now, take that and knowing you wouldn't have to be in combat and flip that on its head and actually be in combat underwater. Underwater combat was initially planned to be implemented within Bioshock 2, and there would have been many more underwater and open levels. However, like I said, it was scrapped due to time constraints. So things like those aqua splicers could have been a thing. Potentially fighting something like a shark or a giant squid would have been badass. The possibilities are endless. And again, what could have been? What could have been? Now here's a blast from the past. I don't remember if it was part 1 or part 2 that I uploaded, but I covered the topic of the little brothers that would have been in the game, but unfortunately they were scrapped as well. Well, when you progress through Bioshock 2 and when you get into Persephone, more specifically Inner Persephone, there was going to be something for the little brothers that would have been there if they were in the game, and they were called Little Brother Therapy Rooms. As you can see by the picture on the screen now, these don't look very pleasant. On the outside, you see a tube basically pumping something on the inside. I'm not sure if that's some sort of mind control thing or pheromone thing or maybe even an oxygen tank, but it honestly just doesn't look good at all, and it looks quite creepy. Now, when you pull back the curtain, it's just a bed, but I just wonder what's going on when that curtain is closed and there's a potential scientist or someone else inside the tent with the little brother. Obviously, it's all hypothetical because both ideas were scrapped, but it's definitely interesting to think about what could have happened, especially if they would have been in the finalized game. The final portion of this video that I want to discuss about Bioshock 2 is going to cover Minerva's Den and what they wanted it to actually look like. So originally they wanted it to be more Greek in appearance. Obviously with Rapture, you know that Art Deco was the end-all be-all for everything Rapture, whether it was the lighthouse designs or just when you get down to Rapture in and of itself. So the fact that they wanted to go with a Greek appearance is kind of something that seems a little bit out of left field, so I'm definitely glad that this one didn't make the cut. To me, it's just a bit confusing, but I'm all for brainstorming. I'm all for trying out and thinking about new ideas and even trying them out in practice. Unfortunately, this is just something that I don't think would have resonated with fans. It would have broke the immersion, especially having something that looked completely different than Rapture and obviously continuing the story or adding on to the story of Bioshock 2, you're going from the Art Deco scene to Greek architecture. It just would break the immersion, and I just don't think it would have fit well personally. Now let's move on to the now over 10-year-old Bioshock Infinite. The first thing I want to talk about is rather hilarious in my personal opinion. So let's talk about the Hall of Heroes as a level. Obviously, as you know, you get to see some of Booker's past in the Hall of Heroes. You meet Slate again, and eventually you get Shock Jockey from Slate, because that's what Booker and Elizabeth were after during that whole level in Hall of Heroes, Soldier's Field, etc. So eventually you get Shock Jockey, and you have two options whether to spare Slate by shooting him in the head or leaving him alone, allowing Comstock and his men to take him prisoner. Well, this could have turned out completely different, and let me tell you why. When I say that this was in the very early development stages of Bioshock Infinite, I mean very early development stages. So, the Hall of Heroes we know today, that wouldn't have been the case. Want to know why? It would have been a Tunnel of Love ride. So, yeah, it would have been a Tunnel of Love ride. All I can think about right now, and since it's in my brain and I have to think about it, you guys have to think about it too, because this is fucking hilarious, and I wish it would have made it into the final game just as a funny Easter egg or something equivalent to that. Can you imagine Slate and Booker finally meeting from God knows how long ago? They get together, then they go through the Tunnel of Love. Aww, what a story. What a story that would have been. Again, it's in my brain. You guys have to think about it too. Booker and Slate in a Tunnel of Love ride. I want someone to make fan art of that, because again, that is fucking hilarious. This next contraption is a little bit confusing. Now, the reason why I say that is because of the existence of the skyhook and obviously the skyline. So the early concept art for this was that they wanted to incorporate a jetpack, and I genuinely don't know why. Maybe they didn't want to use the skyline and the skyhook, and that might have been early on in the development cycle. But then as they started developing and developing and developing, the skyline and the skyhook just seemed to actually make more sense in order to travel. I imagine the jetpack would have been a pain in the ass to control, especially with a controller, or if you're on mouse and keyboard. I just genuinely don't think it would have made for a good transportation type of gadget in this case. It looks cool, don't get me wrong, but I think just for convenience factor, the skyhook and the skyline blows the jetpack out of the water. What do you guys think? Do you think the jetpack would have been a better way to traverse Columbia, or do you think the skyline and the skyhook was perfectly executed? Again, if you want, let me know. Next up is a little bit of something that is kind of cheating, but I'm gonna let it slide just for one different picture. And again, it's going to be the Mad Toy Maker's shop. I showed you the original picture that actually looked like it would have been an entire combat area. Well, this picture that you're going to see looks a lot more impressive because it's got that Art Nouveau style of architecture. And I can imagine the Mad Toy Maker making his toys inside this contraption, and this looks like some sort of haunted house that would have trap doors everywhere that would have led you into fights with the Mad Toy Maker's toys, or even worse, it could have led into a dead end where you and Elizabeth would just die. There again would have been so many different possibilities, not only with the Mad Toy Maker, but with the Mad Toy Maker's toys and the Mad Toy Maker's shop as well. Unfortunately, we'll never be able to see what this enemy would have looked like, what this enemy could have been, and how impactful this enemy could have been. In my opinion, I think he would have been badass, but that's just me. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, please. So for the final thing I'd like to discuss within the Bioshock Infinite section of this video is something that actually interests me in real life as well. I love history, whether it's learning about the world wars, the weapons that were used, the advancements in technology of said weapons, or just going back in time and looking at the weapons back then. This includes something called the Maxim gun. So, in Bioshock Infinite, there was going to be a Maxim gun, or something very, very similar to it, that would have been called the Skyline Pack machine gun. This, again, as mentioned, would have been a weapon that looked extremely similar to the Maxim gun. However, it would have been adapted to be carried on the Skyline through something called the Skyline Pack. Obviously, there's not too much information known about it, though I wish I could talk to whoever came up with the overall concept art of this and ask them questions, because I'm genuinely fascinated by this in particular. This weapon would have been smaller than a full-sized machine gun, obviously, because it would have had to be on the Skyline, and it would have been, obviously, very good in terms of stopping power. But obviously it was cut, or in this case dropped, and we get the Gatling gun as well as the crank gun that the motorized Patriots use. So in my opinion, the Maxim gun, or the equivalent of the Maxim gun that was in the concept art that was shown on screen, looked incredible. And I would have loved to run around as Booker with this weapon instead of the crank gun. Let me know what you think of this weapon in particular. Do you think it looks badass? Do you think it wouldn't fit the time period of Columbia? Let me know. I love this weapon. I love the Maxim gun in terms of learning about it. And overall, I just love learning about history. So the fact that they were going to incorporate something like this into the game, and unfortunately it dropped out, it bums me out, but I can understand. Well, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else watching, I hope you enjoyed part 4 of the cut and removed content from the Bioshock series. If you want to see more, as mentioned at the start of the video, let's hit 1,000 likes. I know that seems like it might be a lot. I have faith in you guys that you'll be able to do it. You've proven me wrong before, so let's see if we can do this. I have faith in you. So, with that being said, thank you for watching. If you want to see more videos in the future, or if you enjoyed this video overall, would you kindly hit that like button? Would you hit that subscribe button? It's free, and if you want to unsubscribe at any time, that is completely okay. I totally understand. And last thing, if you want to, of course, you can ring the bell and hit all post notifications. That way, you never miss a future video or a future live stream here on the channel. If you want to talk to me outside of YouTube or join our Discord server, my social media links are the best ways to do so, the links to which will be down in the description below, again with the Discord server as well. Also, I'm starting to upload on my second channel, so if you want to go check that out, I'll leave it in the description for you guys to check out. Completely up to you, you don't have to, but it's more additional content. And also, one final thing, I'm streaming more on Twitch during the night if you want to go check that out. Twitch.tv/BioshockHub. We'd love to have you come out there. We do some fun shit. Other than that, one final reminder, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, live streams at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to be giving away 3 Bioshock NECA figures to the top donors in order to help my mom going through her cirrhosis, and we'll see what happens from there. Unfortunately, you just have to wait for her to see the GI doctor, and then we'll know the steps after that. So I hope to see you in the live streams. With all of that being said, thank you all so very much for watching. Thank you all for the tremendous amount of support recently. Take care, stay safe, and I will talk to you all in the next video.